Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm back to talk about 2 episodes of The Flash. That is episode 702, titled The Speed of Thought, which premiered Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, and episode 703, titled Mother, which premiered Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, both on the CW. I'm recording on March 18th, so 2 days after 703 had aired. So huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen both those episodes already, please go do so first and then come back and see what I have to say about the episodes. My other video reminders are up on screen, so take a moment to remind yourselves of those. Also, I only know the knowledge of what's shown to me in the show. I don't know any of the comic book knowledge unless I actually look it up, which I do after the fact. So anything I'm recalling is strictly what I would remember from the show telling us itself. So there's that. Also, so sorry for the delay. Usually I record the night of the latest one of the when I'm doing these bunched videos, but I had a little problem with my hard drive, which had my notes from 702. So I figured I need to cool down for a little bit before I start talking about this, because there is a bit I wanted to talk about between the two of them. So let's just get right into it, and let's start with, so the way this video is going to go, I'm going to cover both episodes at the same time, and we're going to go section by section. So there might be some things that I reveal in 702 that do get clarified in 703, so just be mindful of that. But it'll be up on screen which I'm referring to at the time. So for timeline-wise, so for 702, it's shortly after the events of 701. It's enough time to allow for Cisco and Frost to return to Star Labs, plus also long enough for Chester to go be with his grandmother or visit his grandmother. I don't know where his grandmother lives, so I mean, it doesn't really matter because we don't see him there. But like, it's that much shortness of time between where we ended off in 701 and then 702. But 703 does pick off where 702 ended. So there's like no question there. For the villain though of the episode, well, for 702, it does mainly focus more on the fact that we have a very speed-thinking Barry kind of turning emotionalist, so therefore kind of evil, since he puts logic before for emotion for him. But then also Eva McCulloch is the backseat villain for the episode, but she is the main antagonist for 703. Also, let's go with the opening scenes before we really get into it. Or I'll even say it right now, because the major reminders for these two episodes, for me really, is the fact that 702 was originally supposed to be 621, and then 703 was originally supposed to be 622, which was supposed to be the season 6 finale. So those are the huge reminders there, because of the fact that these two episodes do focus heavily more on what the season issue was, which would be Eva McCulloch, or the second half of the season issue was, which is Eva McCulloch, and the fact that Barry was losing his speed. So we do deal mostly with those two issues between the two episodes, which makes sense. Another reminder, though, the fact that 702 is kind of also evil Barry, and then the fact that we do technically get Iris back, but it's kind of like we took a step forward but 2 steps back kind of a moment. Because she's back on our side, like she's out of the Mirrorverse, but she's not fully with us yet, if that makes sense. So anyways, opening scene of the episode. So the 702 starts off with kind of like their version of a memorial for the Welleses, because at the end of 701, Nash and the other Welleses inside his head sacrificed their existence to power the artificial Speed Force. So the start of the episode kind of is like their version of a funeral for him, and then Cisco's present for it because he had a connection with any of the Welleses that came their way. They kind of dealt with that. And then 702, the opening scene, like I said before, it literally continues where 702 left off. So the scene opens up with Cisco, Frost, and Allegra waking up and finding the artificial Speed Force broken, and an emotional Barry now leaning over a comatose Iris, or it looked like she was kind of seizing, or she was like dying down from a seizure, but she was definitely flinching while comatose. I don't know what you would call it, but that's kind of the description we're going to go with here. So there's the storylines for the 2 episodes. I tried narrowing it down, but we'll talk about 702 first. So I picked up on the speed thinking that came from the artificial Speed Force, the Mirrorverse, what's happening on that side, and then what was happening with Eva being exposed. So with speed thinking, we get After getting connected to the artificial speed force, Barry finds that because of that boost in power, he now has speed thinking, which allows for them to find a way to build a portal to the Mirrorverse. Yet it compromises Barry's emotions to the point where now he has none, because they feared that if they created an artificial speed force based off of Thawne's designs, that Barry would have to tap into negative emotions in order to power it. So they tried to get rid of that, but by doing that, it got rid of all emotions, which is the more speed that Barry used, the more emotions took away from him because he was constantly using it. It depleted a lot quicker. So there's that. It led to the point where we had Barry facing off against his own team members of Cisco, Frost, and Allegra. Even though Barry does save Iris from the Mirrorverse, though it wasn't because he loves her, it's because logically she was the key to taking Eva down because she was in the Mirrorverse longer and she was connected to Eva's power. And that is why Barry forcibly saves Iris, leaving Camilla and Singh unconscious and inside the Mirrorverse. But it's only after he saw Iris in a very critical state after getting out of the Mirrorverse that his emotions flipped back on and he became the Barry who loved again, kind of a thing. So that's something for that one. The second storyline is in the Mirrorverse. So Iris ends up reunited with Camilla and then Singh, but then Camilla and Singh both drop unconscious because of the effects of the mirror gun that was used against them. And then before Iris could really help them out, that's when Evil Barry opens the portal and forces her through. But we are finding before that happens that Iris is knowing more things about the Mirrorverse that she really shouldn't because she has been there longer. So the fact that she immediately knew that Camilla and Singh were being affected because of the mirror gun, when before she wouldn't have any reason why to think that, but it's because of her knowledge of that happening. Also, the fact that she was able to get a message sent to the real world, not meaning to, because it was a message originally sent for Camilla and Singh, but Iris's frequencies with speed thinking. Barry explained it, but he said Iris was able to be on the same frequency level or something like that, but she was adapting a lot more to the Mirrorverse properties. So there's that. And then third storyline with Eva being exposed. Eva's secret as the mirror duplicate is exposed on live TV due to Barry's calculated move of exposing that footage of the real Eva dying at the night of the particle accelerator explosion. He exposed that while she was on national TV. And then that led to everybody questioning, well, who is she? Does she kill the real Eva? And it led Eva into a tailspin to decide that she's going to take the real world from everybody and make it her own. So, but Evil Barry calculated that when their enemies were emotional, that's when they made mistakes. Forgetting the fact that you don't purposely antagonize someone who could fly off the deep end, because they become even more unpredictable, right? So there's that. When it comes to 703, because this was meant to be the finale, there's really only two storylines that they focus on. They're all connected to each other, of course. First one being trying to get Speed Force back for Barry, and the second one is the whole mirror invasion that Eva is orchestrating. So Speed Force is actually connected to Iris being in a coma, and Barry realizes that the original Speed Force that he thinks died off didn't just die off as it's a living property. It was inside, a part of it is still inside Iris, because he always believed, well, why was she always the lightning rod? Why did he always feel an actual spark, not like the theoretical emotional spark, but an actual lightning spark whenever him and Iris were together? And so they realized that a part of the Speed Force must be within her because she was also able to become a speedster when that one time when they switched powers. And because they were also able to have Nora, who became a speedster, of both their colors. So they figured that, okay, then a part of it had to be an Iris, so all they had to do was take that out of Iris and put it in the artificial Speed Force and make it the new Speed Force. So after doing that, Barry gets his powers back. Iris is out of her comatose state. I really don't know why getting the Speed Force out of her was what put her in a coma, since what put her in a coma was her being in the Mirrorverse. I'm not sure, but anyways, that was taken care of. And then they all deal with the mirror invasion. And this is where Eva was capturing people and putting them into the Mirrorverse and then having their mirror duplicates as her minion army taking on her versions of herself, and everybody had to confront her. And instead of killing her to end the day, they pretty much convinced her that this wasn't what her mission statement was. She wanted to make the world better, but instead she was terrorizing it, which it was not what she intended. So there's that. Last scenes of the episode. 702 showed the original Harrison Wells before Eobard Thawne had killed him, being resurrected by this weird green light particles from where he was originally buried. Though I'm kind of questioning that, because didn't Sisko and Joe dig him up in season 1? Like, I don't think they would have put him back in that same grave. They would have taken him to autopsy and did a proper analysis and funeral, right? But the particles emerged from that same spot. Those green particles actually reminded me of like nanites from the show Revolution. It was funny when I saw it. So there's that. For 703, though, the last scene shows an 18 hours earlier jump to the moment where they were all repowering the Speed Force through Iris's connection. But when that happened and the Speed Force kind of like repowered itself again, huge lightning bolt went up into the sky. Naturally, we kind of figured that would happen. But then it breaks off into four specific lightning bolts. It kind of like they were escaping like north, south, east, west from the looks of it, but they were all different colors, and they were yellow, red, blue, and green. And then that's how it ends. We'll get to that. We'll get back to that later. But or I'll mention it now, because this was intended to be the season 6 finale. I'm wondering if ending it, if like that was the actual season cliffhanger of like the 4 lightning bolts, or if that was changed to be something else, because now this was going to be an episode 3 instead of episode 22. Because then I also heard we were supposed to get a Thawne related season cliffhanger, and yet we didn't. So I'll bring it up later. But let's move to the most shocking moment of the episode. 702. The fact that Frost took Velocity X, and we had a temporary moment where Frost was also its speedster. Never saw that coming whatsoever, and yet that was so cool. 703. Shocking moment. OG Wells is leaving again. Yes, it was sweet when he explained like he can time travel. Don't know how he was able to get that kind of a power. But he's able to time travel, and he decides he wants to relive the 4 years with his wife, and he's going to relive it. So, like, if he has 90 years left, like, if he has 90 years to live with this power that he has, then he's going to relive those 4 years over and over again with his wife, which is very sweet. But at the same time, he's leaving. So where does that leave us? With no Wells again? I don't know. So there's that. But let's move on to top favorite moments. 702, absolute favorite is the fact that Frost uses Velocity X to become a speedster, and then she faces off against Barry. And I mean, like, yes, Barry's evil, but what was really great about, like, 701 and 702 was the fact that we really got to see Barry act differently. Like, I know, like, that probably must have been so fun for Grant to play, just to play these very different versions of Barry. And just like to stretch those muscles kind of a thing. So even though like we got evil Barry, it was still fun to see it, because I definitely, when we found out the Savitar was technically an evil Barry, like that was still also pretty cool to see as well. So it was very cool to see that not only did we see that part for Barry, but the fact that Frost was able to use Velocity X, which I didn't think she could, because she's not a speedster. I thought that was only meant for speedsters or people with no powers to become speedsters. So I'm hoping there's no backlash to Frost using Velocity X, but it was so cool to see it happen. It's like, it's been a while since we got an actual speedster race going on. So that was pretty cool. Another favorite I did have was the memorial at the beginning for the Wellses. It definitely started us off rough. In that reminder, the fact that, oh, we didn't just lose one Wells, we lost all of them. And just to see Sisko's reaction, Allegra's reaction, and then Barry's reaction too, is just, I'm still wish that Caitlin was there as well, because she had a connection with the Wellses too. But, yeah. it was a nice moment that they were able to, because we didn't get it in the 701. It was nice for us to actually take a moment to do that for the character at the top of the episode. So there's that. Another thing also was the fact that Iris just pretty much debunked Evil Barry's calculations. Evil Barry was so sure that Iris would side with him, at that like his decision to pull her out would have been the right one, and then she just proves him wrong by saying no, save Camilla and sing first before saving her. And then his reaction to that was like, wait, what? It's like, this was not what I thought would happen. Kind of, that was just funny. It like in that moment, it's like, you broke Barry. Like, you broke Evil Barry. Like, it's like literally he was kind of like an android, where it's like you broke his programming with one simple question. So that was funny. But let's move on to the favorites from 703. I like that we didn't have to wait long for OG Wells, or Timeless Wells as Cisco calls him, for him to make an appearance to the Flash team. I love that there was no like second guessing like who he was. I like that he already it was a lot of explanation to figure out like why he was able to be there. But I did like that he was already coming into it knowing who these guys, knowing who these team members were, because he had the knowledge of the other Wellses before their demise. Again, still don't understand how, but they explained it. So it was like there was no doubts or no, they didn't need that whole journey of like, oh, we got to figure out if we're going to trust him or anything. It's like, no, they couldn't afford that. So I really like that he just dived right in and he offered what he could. Plus, I also really like that Barry got a separate moment with him first, because he even told OG Wells, like, out of all the Wellses, it was him that he wanted to meet, because it was that Wells that had Barry interested in science and down the path that he wanted to go on. So, yeah. So that was pretty cool. Though, it did have me question, because Cisco made a comment about the fact that they barely know each other, but I'm like, didn't OG Wells hire Cisco and Caitlin to be part of the team? Or were they hired after Eobard had taken over Wells' identity? Because a part of me kind of thought, like, well, if this is OG Wells, maybe Cisco and Caitlin would feel more of a familiarity of having their old boss back. But then it's like, okay, but then that would also mean, like, was it always Eobard that they had as a boss? Or did they have a moment where they had OG Wells and then Eobard took over his body and they just never knew? So that's a side question there. Another favorite I did have was the fact that we got to see Flash, Frost, and Cisco in the field fighting side by side together again. I really missed those. And it was just great seeing the three of them back together again and standing united. So there was that. And we'll talk more about that later. But top peeved moments. I really only have the one in 702, and that was the fact that Barry destroyed the artificial speed force. I mean, I get why he destroyed it, but I feel a part of me was like, I don't know, when it happened, it's just like, unless like Barry thought like that was a moment where he got his emotions back and he feared that he was not going to have that reprieve for much longer before he became emotionless again, and that's why he destroyed the artificial speed force, to ensure that he didn't go back in that emotionless state again, then I can understand why he did it. But at the same time, a part of me is like, why would you destroy the one thing that could maybe help you save your wife and your friends? Because when he destroyed it, he was without his speed again. Especially when he's also up against Eva, taking control of the city. It's just like, you just destroyed your one chance of having any defense against her in what seemed like an emotional fit of rage, which was, I guess, what we wanted, because he was emotionless beforehand. But it was just, like, again, a small peeve. And it also, it's kind of like, I also didn't want it to be like a heat of the moment kind of a thing. And that's why he did it. So that's why it was a peeve, because it kind of felt like it was. But then when you really think about it, it's like, okay, maybe he feared that he wasn't going to have his emotions for much longer, and he'd rather destroy the thing that was taking his emotions away than to risk going back into that state again. So it's kind of like a mixed peeve for me. But when it comes to 703, I actually have a lot of peeves. And I feel bad for thinking that, especially if this is meant to be like what we would have ended off with for season 6 finale. I'm kind of disappointed that I have all these peeves with it. You know what I mean? So the first off was Sue and Ralph just subtly appearing at the lab. Seemed very too convenient for them to show up. And like, if I'm really honest with myself, I'll talk about it later. I technically didn't need to see them at all. So that was a peeve, just because it felt weirdly placed. Plus, it was just weird and disgusting to see Ralph melting like that, even though I understand why they had to do that, to hide the fact that it wasn't the same actor anymore. But like, that was still gross, seeing him melting like that. Anyways, second peeve, again, this one's minor. I don't recall Team Flash having any worries about Joe and Cecile. I can understand Joe and Cecile not being able to contact the Flash because like all communications were cut from the police station. Although they just assumed that they couldn't get through cell phones, but I'm wondering why they never tried like the landlines to try to connect with Star Labs. But anyways, but then like I don't recall Team Flash mentioning Joe or Cecile, like, have you gotten in touch with them? Where are they? Did someone check in on them? Especially when the whole city was under attack. So it just seemed like you kind of forgot about them. It's like, or you forgot to worry about them. And like, yeah, they have bigger things to worry about, but all it takes is one line or one or two lines, a question, and then an answer of like, have you heard back from them? It's like, no, or it's like, I can't get a hold of them. And like, just know that they are on your mind, kind of a thing. So that's a small thing. The big thing I had an issue with, though, was the actual fight scene with the OG team, that is Flash, Frost, and Cisco, going up against all these multiple duplicates of Eva. And then also when Iris joins in afterwards. I had a huge issue with that. Not with Iris joining, I just had a whole issue with that fight scene in general. Like the whole battle, the final battle that was supposed to have this whole second half of the season leading up to this battle. And yet I was so disappointed by it because it made no sense to me. And even though I just said that I really liked Barry, Frost, and Cisco out in the field together again, being united, yes, I understand that. Like, that was my favorite part. How the fight was conducted was what the logic behind the fight made no sense to me. Because they made a point at the very beginning of the fight that one Eva was faster than Barry's speed, because Allegra had pointed out, well, why can't Barry's speed just defeat her? And then O.G. Wells had said that Eva proved to be faster than Barry's speed. So if that's true, either that explains why... It's many things, because I can understand, okay, why Barry alone couldn't handle one Eva, and that's why Frost and Cisco would come in to, like, help assist him, because she would be faster than his speed, so he needs other distractions to help him out with that. But then you add in all these other Evas. So either A, Barry can't outrun one Eva, and that same speed enhancement translates to all of her mirror duplicates, so that means Barry can't outrun any of the multiple Evas that come. And yet you have him winning against quite a few of them by speed running. So that made no sense to me. And it wasn't like it was a duplicate combo of like Frost and then speed. No, it was like full on just speed, and he was going, and like he was moving faster than them, which made no sense. Or it had to be either Eva was too fast for Barry, and that translated to all her duplicates, or the more Evas there were meant that the original Eva duplicate would be not as fast. So that means Barry would be able to take her down. It's kind of similar, like if you think of the originals in episode 201, when Klaus was connected to the Moonlight Rings, the more werewolves that used the Moonlight Rings, the weaker Klaus got. So if one Eva was faster than Barry, that would be enough. But if there was two Evas, then they shouldn't be as fast as just the one Eva alone. There's three Evas, that means they should be not as fast as there's two Evas who are not as fast as the one Eva. So with more Evas added, their combined speed should equal to the 1 Eva. But that's not even the case that they did, too. So then it was just like, I'm confused. Okay, like, why is Barry's speed not being, like, why is it not affected? Like, what? There's so many Evas, it should be either he can outrun all of them, or they're all faster than him. So which is it? So that was a peeve of mine because it made no sense when they did it the way they did it. And then another part was that Iris controlling the mirror shots against Eva, and then she suddenly loses that ability once Eva returns to the Mirrorverse. Shouldn't that also change now that we know that this Eva is actually an Eva duplicate and not the original Eva, like we were meant to believe when we first got introduced to her? Because, like, if the Eva duplicate is the one that has all these mirror powers, why does Iris have that power? And if she does have that power, wouldn't she be stronger because she's the human that is now connecting to the Mirrorverse as opposed to the mirror duplicate who, I don't know. It just made no sense. And the fact that I was so ready for Iris to be with these new powers, with her controlling reflective surfaces and stuff like that. But then to find out, like, no, I don't have the powers. Eva took it back with me when she went to the Mirrorverse. It's like, really? Iris went through all those changes in the Mirrorverse, and yet she doesn't keep any of those ramifications. It's just like, what? Makes no sense. There's that. And then another thing. Why was Barry, like, I get the sentiment of how Eva losing control over the duplicates and then Barry and Iris standing by her side to help her gain back her control over the duplicates, how it's more of a siding emotional support and stuff. I get that. That was a great emotional message. Logically, I don't get how Barry being in connection with Eva and Iris being in connection with Eva, how does that boost Eva's control over all the other duplicates? Iris's powers come from Eva. Barry is only connected to Iris because of the Speed Force thing, which I could see then could be connected to the mirror thing, but then it's like, it's not like, it's different if it was like Mirror Master, if she connected with Mirror Master and they both had the same power and they were boosting it together, then like, okay. But you're taking two other people who have no connection in the Mirrorverse, like no actual control, and yet you're pulling power from them to boost your own? Like, or is it like dark energy that you're pulling from them and that's what's boosting your ability to regain control over your duplicates? I just, I'm sorry. I was just, 48 hours ago when I watched this episode, I was so confused, so mad that I was more focused on the fact it wasn't making sense to me than just enjoying what was happening on screen. Because usually I can disregard any of the illogical build-ups if, like, the fight scene is flashy and cool enough. But, like, if I get none of that, or if the logic of how the fight scene happens makes no sense to me, then I'm more drawn to that, and you take me out of the moment. And then it's just like, great, I didn't like it. So, I'm sorry if anyone did enjoy it. This is just one person's opinion. I can't help how I feel in the moment of watching an episode. Even, again, 48 hours later, I still don't understand the logic of how they won that fight to begin with. I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely love the fact that they didn't have to kill her to get through to her. But at the same time, it's like, really? That's what we built up to? Alright. Okay, I guess. When you compare it to 702, I prefer the face-off against Evil Barry and, like, Team Flash. I preferred that. So yeah, let's move on. Major tidbits. 702. Frost returns healed from her injuries caused by Black Hole. We also see there's we saw, I guess, the earlier version of the Hall of Heroes, or definitely the Flash Museum that Nora mentioned in the future. It looked like we got like an earlier version of it when during the whole memorial of Wells's, because we saw lost devices and outfits. We saw Nora's outfit, Jesse Quick's outfit, Nash's utility belt, HR's drums, Harry's glasses. There also is a memorial wall for all the people lost, no matter the change in the timeline, which I thought was pretty great. Sad, but great that no matter the change, no one's gonna be forgotten, kind of thing. And then there was a question of the fact that Camilla's message in the Mirrorverse wasn't written in reverse, while Iris's was. So that was just a question as tidbit as to why that was. Why was me, the audience member, able to read Camilla's message easily like I normally do read everything else, but when it comes to Iris's messages, it's always flipped as if I'm looking in a mirror, when technically they're in the Mirrorverse, so everything with words should be backwards as if you're looking in the mirror. You know what I mean? So anyways, 703 tidbits. We get Cisco and Camilla reuniting over the phone, both saying I love you to each other. I think it's the first time they say it to each other, but I don't recall. It was a very cute moment between them. We do get baby Jenna finally being mentioned between Joe and Cecile. It's like you guys have a daughter, and yet we don't see or hear her, and it's just like, did we forget that you had a baby together? It's like, I don't know. Okay, this is where I really want to talk about Sue and Ralph. So Sue and Ralph, their ending in the episode seemed like a spin-off type of a send-off. I know that's not going to be the case because of what happened with Ralph's actor. But I get why they showed him the way they did. They had to bring Ralph in to show that his physical appearance was damaged to the point that he needed Star Labs' help, and then like repair him, but not back to the way he originally was. I get that. But technically, I did not need to see any of them. I didn't need to see Sue at the police station with Joe, and I didn't need Sue to tell Joe that her parents weren't her parents, because Joe would have known that mirror duplicates was a thing because of what was happening with Iris. He didn't need Sue to tell him that that's what was going on. So that her appearance just seemed pointless, except to remind us that she's a master of disguise. Them appearing at the Star Labs, Sue being injured, and Ralph's face being melted off. I technically didn't need to see them because they just showed that, they were at McCulloch Technologies before Eva blew it up to try to get evidence to clear Sue of her murder investigation. And yet we never see them at McCulloch Tech. So it's like, all we know is through dialogue that that's where they were in their injuries. It's like, I didn't need them to show up. You could have told me that through a line, and like their appearance was only needed so they can give the evidence to Chester so he can verify that what they grabbed was actually viable to clear Sue's name. So like, I get that, but then at the same time, it's like, you could have easily just had that all happen off screen, and in a few simple dialogues, you could have had a package come into Star Labs. It's the piece of evidence. A note from Sue and Ralph say, I need you to fix this, or I need you to gain access into it. This is what we need to clear Sue's name. We couldn't come in because we had to go to ground, or like maybe like someone was tracking us. We couldn't risk leading them to Star Labs or something. That all of that could have been done through props and messages. We didn't have to see Sue and Ralph again because like I really didn't see a purpose in bringing them back. And then also when it comes to Ralph's face, I really don't see why they had to go the whole extreme route of him being melted to the point where he needed Star Labs' help. If anything, Ralph could have needed to fake his death, and that forces him to have a new face to go with his new identity, and then that would be the reason why. And then the next time we see Ralph, it's with his new face, and we won't know it's Ralph until like he says, "Hey guys, it's me," kind of thing, you know? So it just like for me, it made no sense because we don't see Sue and Ralph in the final fight against Eva and her mirror minions. We don't see them there. So it's like, what was the point in them coming back except to deliver one package and to show that Ralph needed medical assistance, right? So that was just something that's also kind of a peeve, but I kind of extended it to tidbits because like it's it tied in. So there's that. But let's move on to quick random questions very quickly. For 702, I did have the questions of first one. Since Eva is actually the mirror duplicate, does that mean that what Iris is feeling in the Mirrorverse would be different to what Mirror Eva experienced in the Mirrorverse? Because Iris is a human being stuck in the Mirrorverse as opposed to a mirror duplicate being stuck in the Mirrorverse. But then I had the question of like, did everything the mirror duplicate told Iris of what she experienced? Did that even happen at all? Like what? I mean, a part of me kind of wished that she wasn't a mirror duplicate. I wish that she was actually the real Eva McCulloch, who had meta powers, who gained meta powers and then got stuck in the Mirrorverse. Like, I would have preferred that, and then she actually got changed and altered during her 6 years in the Mirrorverse, and that's what led her to the version we have now, as opposed to finding out, like, oh, no, she's not even the original. She's only a duplicate. Which also kind of reminds me of what they did with Savitar Barry, and the fact that he's a time remnant of Barry, and not the original Barry. Quote-unquote, the original Barry, you know? Because he's a time remnant. So that was kind of like, I don't know if they did that to purposely have a callback for that. But anyways, there's that. This next question was kind of answered in 703, but I had the question of, like, how was OG Wells still alive? I mean, I had the question, were the green light particles connected to Oliver's Spectre power? I mean, I also had the question, is it connected to the Green Lantern or whatever green power source that we got at the end of Era with Diggle finding the ring? There's a lot of questions like that, because I don't think in 703 they explained where Wells got that green power from, or like how he's able to time travel all of a sudden. Did they say that it was because of the Speed Force or something? I don't know. So there's that. Also, I had the question of the particles they stole from Eva to open up the portal to the Mirrorverse. Would Iris still have the same material on her after they pulled her out of the Mirrorverse? I mean, granted, they didn't have to open the portal to the Mirrorverse because Eva ended up doing it for them, but I was just curious as to whether or not that would even have been a viable route for them. So there's that. 703 questions. 1. What was OG Wells looking at when he took his glasses off and he took them off and then put them back on during the speed transfer from Iris to the artificial Speed Force mechanism? He acted as if he was seeing something behind Team Flash, but then when we revisit it in the post-credit scene, we don't see what he looks at, because, like, I don't think in that moment when he was putting on the glasses and taking them off and, like, really looking amazed, I don't think it was just Team Flash he was looking at. A part of me thought when it originally happened that maybe OG Wells was seeing all the remnants of the other Wellses behind the Team Flash. Maybe that's what he was seeing. But I don't think it was because he was being amazed by the Team Flash watching as Barry ran and got his speed back. So what do you guys think? And also there's the question of, like, are we going to get Tom Cavanaugh back? Are we going to get a Wells, even though OG Wells says he was going to go back to live in the past with his wife? But if he does that, won't that affect the timeline? That's another question, too. If he goes back and relives those 4 years with his wife over and over and over again, isn't that going to continuously change the timeline every time he does it? I'm confused, right? So there's that. And last question. What do you think the 4 different lightning colors mean that emerged from this new burst of Speed Force energy? Was that it reforming again everywhere? Does Wally get his speed back then? Immediately, I will admit, when I first saw the 4 colors and the way that we saw them, I thought of the Power Rangers. Don't know why, I just did. But I'm wondering, like, part of me wonders why it would show it all 4 splitting off from each other. If that maybe might represent that we're going to get 4 new speedsters coming back, or maybe 4 new speedsters were created. And then it had me wondering, okay, when have we ever seen the colors before? Yellow is obviously from Barry, from Nora. Red, we've only seen with Reverse Flash and Nora when she was kind of evil. Blue, we've only seen with Zoom. And then green, I don't think we've seen green lightning except when we were in the Speed Force when the Spectre energy was infecting it. But I don't think we've seen a speedster with green lightning yet. So part of me is kind of wondering if the four lightning colors diverging from each other means we'll get 4 new speedsters our way. That'd be kind of cool, though. Kind of missing the whole speedsters being the ultimate bad guy, you know? Because it's kind of like, well, that's why you need the Flash, so that you can stop other speedsters, right? Alright, let's move on to predictions very quickly. Based off the promo for 704, we get Abracadabra returning, and I also noticed that Iris has a new haircut. Aside from that, that's all I noticed. But the synopsis, though, reads that the Flash must deal with Abracadabra's sudden return to Central City. The villain is back with a vengeance and a score to settle. Meanwhile, Allegra deals with a tricky situation, and Caitlin suspects something is off with Frost. Iris is forced to look at a dark moment in her past. Ooh, what's off with Frost? I'm sorry. Also, it was also weird just seeing this promo because Abracadabra, I mean, the last time we saw him was back in 2017 when he was first introduced. But literally, the guy playing Abracadabra, David Dashmalikan, he was literally on MacGyver 2 weeks ago playing Murdoch. And I know him more as Murdoch than I do as Abracadabra. So seeing him on my screen, I'm like, wait, why does he look familiar? And before he was named Abracadabra, it's like, oh, that's why. But I'm like, no, he's familiar another way. And then I found out, like, no, he's Murdoch from MacGyver. That's why. And he was just on 2 weeks ago. So that's timing, right? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see why he's back. There's got to be ramifications for Iris being in the Mirrorverse. It can't just be shown in 702 and 703. And then her suddenly not having the powers from the Mirrorverse. And it's just like, okay, but there has to be some ramifications from that. There also has got to be some ramifications about Frost using Velocity X. As much as I don't want there to be a blowback for that, but there's got to be with the way that they kept building up on Barry not using that as often as he may have liked. But yeah, it'll be interesting getting back into the episode of the meta of the week. Kind of a setup. I missed doing those when it comes to the Flash. Yeah. So that's pretty much it, guys. What did you guys think of 702 and 703? What did you guys like about it? What do you think will happen next? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your own thoughts, theories, and opinions about all that good stuff. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. I read blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that good stuff, all found in one place, so go check that out. Again, WordPress, same thing, link down below. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress. A little more organized, a little more detailed, but still a work in progress as well. I'm hoping to get caught up on it in 2 weeks. I have 1 more week left in my program. So a lot of things are piling up to be due that really need my focus. So yeah, next time you'll hear from me for the Flash will probably be when I do 704 and 705 together. I'm definitely going to need a little bit of break. I'm kind of disappointed with how 703 ended, and I'm wondering if anybody knew what the original plan for the season 6 finale was supposed to be. Would love to hear it, because I know for a fact if this is how the episode was supposed to end, as season 6 finale, I don't think I would have been as pumped to wait 5 months for the new episode. So I'm kind of glad it's just I get a new episode next week, because yeah. No more negativity for me. I'm sorry, guys. It's just, I don't know. It's just maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just I'm not invested anymore. I don't know why. It's like I really enjoy these characters, but maybe it's just I'm just in a point in my life. Maybe I really don't know. I'll leave that for me to figure it out for myself, though, guys. But I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. I do hope you come back to not only just see my videos for the Flash, but anything I post on my channel. So ring that notification bell to be up to date with my videos, regardless of what show I am talking about. Otherwise, if you do want Flash content, I did post a tier ranking video about the seasons up until, I think I did season 6. Yeah, up to season 6. Again, my thoughts. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Just keep that in mind and be gentle with me. But yeah, I'll leave it at that because I'm about to come up on 45 minutes. So guys, take care. I got to get back to work. But until next time, this is Mel. I wish you a great day, great week, wherever you are. Bye for now.